Good morning, welcome to another video. If you're new, my name's Emma. I'm an illustrator based in Sheffield and these are my daily-ish vlogs. And I've woken up today with enthusiasm to try and catch up. I'm not really behind, but to try and catch up on the 3 materials drawing challenge. So the 3 materials drawing challenge is it's a challenge I've talked about in a few of my videos. You're probably sick of hearing about it. It's a challenge that was started by Catherine Boyd to document the summer holidays without getting bogged down with too many materials and all that kind of stuff. So she chose 3 materials and drew from life for 30 minutes and made kind of like a journal of the summer in her sketchbooks. Last year it ran for 100 days. This year it's running for 50 days. And the principles are the same. You choose 3 materials, you draw from life for no more than 30 minutes. And I'm about 7 days kind of behind where everyone else is. So even though I'm not taking it as seriously as I did last year, because last year I needed that kind of incentive to be in my sketchbooks every day at this time last year, because I was just starting my sketchbook journey around that time. But I sketch every day anyway, mostly. So I haven't really needed it as a way of documenting stuff around me. But I do feel like, I don't know, I didn't mind too much when I missed on a few days because I wasn't letting it rule my life, basically. But now I feel like I'm ready to jump back in. And I'd like to get like maybe 3 or 4. If I could get 7 images today, that'd be brilliant. But I'm not going to push it. Maybe like 3 or 4 sketches in my sketchbook so I can start feeling like I'm not too far behind. Even though there's no such thing as behind when you're doing art. I mean, it's all creative. But I feel like my brain's in the right place to start engaging with that again. So once I finish breakfast, I'm going to draw some things just in my house first to start with, because it doesn't have to be anything special. It's just a bit of sketchbook practice. So let's see where the day takes us. This is what I got from this one, but in classic form. He moved like 2 seconds after I started drawing him to the chair. So like most of this was memory, but I've got something down. From my window. So this is some lavender that I can see outside. Very quick, 15 minutes. So I've just done a little reorder of some products for my shop. If you don't know, I have a small business that I run from home called Embers and Ink, and I sell things online. I sell things in person at markets and also in some of the shops in Sheffield. So I just needed to reorder some of those cards. On a side note, look how curly my hair's gone after having a French plaiting all night. Ooh. Anyway, So they're ordered. While I'm at the computer, I'm just going to get everything ready for our live drawing session. Now, if you're watching this when it goes live, I think, if I've got my days right, it should be tonight that I'm going to be meeting my patrons live on Zoom to practice drawing. So every month, live on Zoom, all of my patrons on a paid tier, so my paid tier starts at £1, you get the option or you get access to live drawing Zoom. So it's part of the Scribbles Aloud Drawing Club, which is a drawing club that I set up over on Patreon. You're welcome to come along if you want to. This month, or tonight if you're watching this live, we're drawing amphibians, so basically like frogs. It's basically frogs. There might be like one newt in there or whatever. I share the images on a slideshow. That's what I'm going to make sure I've got done now. Make sure it all adds up to 40 minutes. It's going to be 40 minutes. All you need to do is bring something to draw with and something to draw on. You can have your camera on or off, it's up to you. So you can come along in your pyjamas if you want and keep your camera off. If you just want to, you know, do some drawing, you don't have to talk or anything like that. You can just turn up, be as anonymous as you like, and just practice drawing with a bunch of people who are also practicing drawing at the same time. Also, people who are on a paid tier don't just get an invite to the live sessions, you also get access to the recording. So if you're in a different time zone and you can't make it live, or you just have other things to do, you can always access the recording of the session for as long as or whenever you're a member. So you don't have to stay a member month after month. You can dip in for this month, cancel your membership, come back in, and whenever you come back in, you'll have access to all of the recordings. So if you were interested in signing up to the Scribbles Aloud Drawing Club, you are very welcome. Like I say, I think tonight, if you're watching this live, we are meeting at 6 p.m. UK time. But like I say, if you're watching this after the event, if you sign up at patreon.com/Emma Woodthorpe, that's me, you can access the recording. So the recording of the one that's going to happen tonight when you're watching it. You'll have access to that as well. Also, along with the slideshow, I do provide a little PDF with the recording. So when the recording goes up, I'll pop a PDF in there with all of the images that I've used. So you can either watch the recording and do it alongside us, but if you want to spend longer on the image, you can use the PDF and print it out if you want to. That's completely up to you. So I'm just going to go and get that done now. And I think I'm going to get some big paper out and just play with some frog ideas. Just blobbing some colours around. But first, let's get this PDF and the slideshow done. You can tell it's warm up here. Look at this boy. Look at that belly. Oh my goodness. I know, you're so handsome. You're so handsome. I'm going to point the fan on you, okay? While I'm down here making a coffee, a few of you have asked me about garden updates, because a few videos back I was digging a pond and doing a tiny bit of garden stuff, because in a 2-bedroomed house, the garden becomes a working space in the summer, apart from the fact I hate the heat. So, for you guys who asked, let's do a very, very quick garden tour, bearing in mind it is still very messy, but c'est la vie, that is the way of my life. First of all, when you come out of the house, I've got my kale here. I moved that here when I was away visiting family because I didn't want it to get too much sun, but I think I might leave it there because otherwise it might bolt in the heat. So kale is looking nice. And when you come around here, I've got my pond, doing nice. I like to leave the grass wild anyway, but now there is a pond as well. And peas and courgette. First little courgette going on there. We'll see if they survive the slugs. It's all a trial. Potatoes need harvesting, but there are potatoes in those bags. Over here, apples are doing well. Planted this tree a couple of years ago, so it's pretty good. Also got apples on the other tree, which are doing their thing. Pay no attention to the barking. Happens every time I'm in the garden. One more look at the pond. Look at this. We've had damson flies, damsel flies and all sorts in here. And also, since getting the pond, we've had loads more small birds. And then this is where it's really all going on. So this is our log store, which we've put a kind of see-through roof on. So in the summer we can use it as a greenhouse, and in the winter we'll use it as a log store or a greenhouse. And in here we've got aubergine, sweet pepper, marigold, and like 4 varieties of tomatoes, plus down here is some basil. And excitingly, the aubergine, see that there? That's what the aubergine will grow from. And there's a few more flower buds. So I'm hopeful of that. The sweet peppers are still growing, but they're not dead yet. And the tomatoes, they've actually started flowering. Is this a bit late for tomatoes? It feels a bit late, but everyone else feels like all of it. I feel like when people are talking about their veg, it's all later than I'd expect as well. So some of the tomato flowers are looking like this. I don't know if that's the type of the variety or if they are not happy. We will find out. Whenever I come in, Roll is always waiting. We've already been out today though. We'll maybe go out later. Good boy. Okay, so I've got a bunch of materials together. This is just going to be a sketchbooking session. When I do sketchbooking, when I sketchbook, when I draw in my sketchbook, however you want to say it, I don't have any idea about the kind of finish I'm going to get. So I kind of know I'm going to draw frogs today, but I'm just blobbing paints around. This is a place for me to play. Remember like when you were 4 and 5 years old and you used to get the paints out and you used to blob and you didn't really worry about what it looked like. You just enjoy moving paints around on the page. You'd enjoy pencils, scribbles. That's what this session is for. This isn't necessarily to show anyone. I know I'm showing you guys because, I mean, it's just part of what I'm doing today, and this is a daily vlog. I used to be really precious about my sketchbooks, and I used to think that they were a place for finished pieces, and they're not. They're a place to play and experiment and to make mistakes. I know you hear this a lot. Maybe we don't hear this enough, actually. But you often hear among people who do sketch every day and who do know how to use a sketchbook and do approach their sketching in a healthy way, you often hear that mistakes are important. They are. They are so important. It's very easy to say, but it's difficult to take on board. I used to get really upset, and I don't know, it used to start a spiral of kind of like negative self-talk, let's put it that way, when things didn't go right or look right. And it's only since taking a year out last year to focus on sketching every day and doing time sketches, so I was focusing on the time that it took rather than the end result, that really opened up my mind to sketching. And when I actually looked back and thought about what I felt when I used to sketch before, I used to feel like I was sketching for the appreciation of some imaginary person in the future who may look over my shoulder or flick through my sketchbooks, and if they saw me making a mistake or a mess or a scribble, they may not know that I could draw, which is ridiculous because your sketchbooks are just for you. And if you never make a mistake, you are never going to progress and know what it is you don't like, or how to get over a problem the next time. If you never actually try again and go, oh, that didn't work, let's have another go. If you never have another go, your peak will only be, that didn't work. That's as far as you're going to get. So you've always got to just have another go. And if you treat it lighthearted, like give yourself a session where you do play, or if you're finding it tricky to do that, I can recommend doing time sketches. So set a timer for 30 seconds, a minute, 1 minute, 5 minutes, whatever, and try and get as much down as you can in that time. It might not be beautiful, it won't be beautiful, it'll be messy and scribbly probably, but the objective is trying to get as much down in that time rather than making a beautiful picture in that time. So the more you do that, the more you get used to seeing your natural kind of handwriting version of your drawing, which is your style, start of your style. And when you get used to seeing that, I mean, the world is your oyster. So what I've done, I did put some images on my iPad of frogs, but the battery's running out. So I've just put my Mac on over there, and I've done an internet search for frogs. Let me turn you around and show you. So I've done an internet search for frogs, and I'm deliberately keeping them as thumbnails because I don't want to focus on the details. I just want to focus on the idea of them, okay? I just want to focus on the kind of shapes and stuff like that. If I had them as big images, I'd focus on the details and not get anything done. So I'm just going to work from these thumbnails, blob some stuff around on here, let it dry, go over with ink, just have a play. So I went a bit more colourful and surreal than I thought I was going to go, but that is just the process of it. It's a bit of fun, isn't it? The only reason I'm showing you, like I say, is because it's just part of what I'm doing today. But I find this is a really good technique for, I don't know, scratching an itch in your brain. So where You don't have to feel like you have to make things that are consistent with your style. You don't have to feel like you've got to make things that you particularly have to think about. You just like making marks on a page, and that's kind of what I've done here. So I tried to keep my brushes quite big, and when I did use a small brush, I held it right at the end, or I tried to hold it right at the end, and did like less controlled movements. And that's just to get a bit of randomness in it. I'm going to let this dry now. I'm going to change my water, have a cup of tea and all that stuff. When it's dry, I'm going to come in with some ink and see what I can do with ink and sticks to add a bit more chaos on top. You never know. Might end up with something I really love, but you never know as well. I might end up with something I don't. And that's fine. I'll just turn the page on my sketchbook and we can do something else next time. Unfortunately, my battery ran out just as I was getting into some juicy bits. But I ended up with a picture that I actually really liked. Frogs weren't really doing it for me. As soon as I started adding ink, it wasn't going where I wanted it to, but that just proves what this exercise was all about. You can have an idea of what you might want to get out of something like this, but you can't always predict it, because you can't predict how it's going to go. Because you might be using new materials, you might just be blobbing around. And I think it like I said before, it pays to have a playful attitude when you're approaching things like this. And I went in with a playful attitude. My frogs didn't go how I wanted, but I just turned the page, did some more. They didn't really go how I wanted. I turned the page, started another one. And the last one is something that I really like. And as I was colouring it in and I was like getting lost in the colour, words started coming in that could be associated with this frog, and I kind of built up a basic little narrative. Could be something, could not be something, I don't know. But it just goes to show, if I'd have stopped when those first frogs didn't go exactly as I wanted, I wouldn't have got to the one that I really loved. And I wouldn't have spent that time letting my brain work in the background to develop potentially something. It might not be something, but it might be. And I wouldn't have got there if I'd have stopped. So it pays to have a playful attitude when you approach your sketchbooks. And I really think it's worth taking the time to kind of practice loosening up. It's easier said than done. And like I said before, techniques like timing your sketches can really help, because it separates you from the result. It separates your feelings from the end result being bad, because if the end result isn't how you want, or it's bad, or however you want to describe it, if it's not quite right, then there's a reason for that, because you were doing it in 30 seconds or 5 minutes, or you were working from thumbnails, or, you know, you work with your glasses off, something like that. Something that will put a buffer between you and getting a little bit upset when it doesn't go right. And doing that enough can really help to loosen you up. I found that anyway, and it's definitely worked. I've got a much healthier relationship with my sketches and my work now, and because of that, I've developed a lot more in this past 18 months. I have developed so much. My work previously, I was starting to feel like it was a bit stagnant. I was starting to make things that were very samey for my shop, and I was putting myself in a box. And in the last 18 months, 12 to 18 months, I feel like I've given myself options, which it's always good for creativity. If you want to develop your creativity, giving yourself options is the way to go. I know a lot of people say niche down, but that's a bit boring, isn't it? It might work for some people, but it doesn't work for me. So yes, I'm going to stop rambling and I'm going to leave this video here. Hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. But until then, bye.